Hi, thanks for tuning into High on Horror. I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Today we're talking about the history of the drive-in and what some of our favorite films are that have been played at drive-ins. With us today, we're talking to the drive-in king himself and all-around movie lover, the legendary Bob Briggs from The Last Drive-In and Monster Vision. He's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. Alright, if you hear that train a-coming, you know what that means. It's Strainwreck, the segment of our show that we love to start our episodes off with because we get to smoke and we get to discuss what strain of cannabis we're getting wrecked on. What do we got today, John?
Listen, last couple 420s we've seen Joe Bob with some vapes. The one, unfortunately, Darcy had posted he wasn't able to. He felt bad because they weren't able to get the video out for 420.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
So I decided I'd bring a vape today.
Oh, okay, vaping it, nice.
And it's from King Louis XIII. It's more commonly apparently known as King Louis or Louis XIII Kush. And it's a indica marijuana strain made by Cross and OG Kush with, I want to try this just because of the name, LA Confidential. Its namesake might be the most famous for making wigs on men's de rigueur for the France aristocracy, but in Southern Cal, the name will bring to mind a popular indica dominant strain. This strain announces itself, as many people did in the 1600s, by its smell.
Oh my God.
That is hilarious. I like that. The difference is this monarch's odor is one that's meant to be enjoyed. Whoever wrote this, hats off to you. Its dense nugs have an overwhelmingly piney smell with an earthy musk that will have you thinking of your last forest adventure. I don't know when that was. Because of its OG Kush heritage, Louis XIII has a very similar spicy Kush aroma. Questions about King Louis strain. So it just goes into questions.
Yeah.
Makes you feel sleepy, relaxed, and hungry. And as always, we got some, I try to find some funny reviews. This person said on August 9th of 2016, I suffer from central sleep apnea, insomnia, and when I can actually hit the REM cycle, several nightmares. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I served 1 year in Iraq as a medic attached to an infantry unit. I've seen and done some shit. I read the wrong one, bro. But hey, person says in the end, they say as a result, they basically have every hindrance to sleep possible, but it helps them.
Oh, okay.
This one, this is the one I meant to read. Somebody was like, pain and nausea gone, no anxiety or paranoia, head buzz. But it's funny because at the end it says super hot stoner sex with my hubby before passing out. Highly recommend for evening/nighttime use. Yay.
Yay, all right.
Now, this one, it's a little long, but it made me laugh.
What she said.
Made her laugh. I have smoked some of the greats, have grown some of the greats as well. When I saw this on the dispensary menu in Arizona, I scratched my head. Understand that as a NorCal guy, I just didn't think they had it in them to pull it off here. More on that later in my upcoming piece, Combing Cowboy Country for Chronic. I asked, hey, is this indoor, outdoor, greenhouse? And was greeted with an, I don't know, until through the door came Joan at Monarch, Scottsdale, calmly saying it's indoor and it's good. So I promptly said I'll take an eighth. The product I got was the first time it had matched what I had smoked in Cali, and the ride was perfect. The nose, burn, ash, buzz, everything was on the money. One of the finest. If you have the nuts to call it Louis XIII, be prepared to deliver. And damn if it didn't. What a great experience. Enough so that it's changing the tempo of my piece, which will now have a few more days because I did find Chronic in Cowboy Country. I just had to wade through a lot of horse shit to find it. Props.
Bravo, bravo. Dude,
I always enjoy finding some of these like ridiculous reviews.
Crazy review.
But yeah, I feel bad that I said this is hilarious and I read about a guy who's got sleep problems.
Yeah,
Fucked up on my end. But you won't see a pro like Joe Bob doing that.
That's true. That's true. Well, before we get to Joe Bob, I was going to talk to you while you pass that vape along. So, Ted Raimi, somebody who obviously, all you listeners out there know who Ted Raimi is. He's in the Evil Dead movies. He played Henrietta in Evil Dead 2 in the show. He's also done a lot of shit with Bruce Campbell. He plays like 3 roles or 5 roles in Army of Darkness. I don't even remember anymore. But he's got a new film coming out called Failure. It's premiering at the Fantastic Pavilion at Cannes, the Marché du Film. I don't know how to say French, so I'm probably tearing that up.
I messed up my French for the Louis XIII. Yeah, it's just bad French all around here.
By this point, when this episode airs, it will have already aired at Cannes, or at Cannes. I'm sorry. But it's a film called Failure, and the thing that's interesting about this is it's a horror film. And from BloodyDisgusting.com, the way that they put the plot is that Raimi plays a man forced to choose between financial ruin and murder, with little time to process, resulting in a crime thriller that delivers on violence. That's Bury the Lead, however, as Raimi's latest takes on the daunting task of capturing this moral conundrum through one single take. This was an 87-page script. Essentially a 3-act film with no intervention. It is completely shot in one take, the whole film. 87 pages. It's a 3-act film with no intermission, one take, one shot for the whole thing. That's the whole catch with it. Directed by Alex Coleman. So this sounds pretty interesting.
I mean, we'll be there checking it out. But I'm looking forward.
That's like live in the moment like that,
yeah.
Right? That sounds pretty. Especially Ted Raimi, he's never done a role like that, so kudos to still doing new shit.
Like I said, we'll be there to check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
We're here to check out everything, pretty much.
Yeah, I really want to see this though. This looks pretty good. So by the time this comes out, we'll probably be seeing the reviews for it. But regardless of if they're good or bad, we're going to be watching them for sure.
Even if we see a bad movie, it was still better than not seeing a movie.
Yeah, right. And it was they had to basically learn 30 pages in a week. And
wow.
90 pages in 3 weeks, and it was very challenging, but they pulled it off. And so this is really interesting. This could really Ted Raimi's never had that shining moment where he deserves it. He's well known. He's always willing to play whatever part, but he's never had that standout moment where you mention his name and people are like, yeah, I know who that is. So something like this could put him on the map with especially newer horror fans and the younger generation. So hopefully this works out. This sounds really interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get on into horror history then.
Get that horror hiss.
This week in horror history.
All right, let's get into some horror history. May 28th, 1980, The Changeling.
My favorite
I was going to say
ghost story of all time. You know that. My favorite supernatural horror movie.
That is, for sure. Whenever I think of The Changeling, I think of you.
Oh, I appreciate that, buddy. Thank you.
I don't know too many people champion it in my personal life as much as you.
Yeah.
Also, we have a birthday on May 28th, Ashley Lawrence.
Oh, my favorite Scream Queen. Yeah, I love Ashley Lawrence, man.
That's right. I forgot she's your favorite.
Yeah, I love Ashley. She's beautiful.
May 29th, 1981, we got Dead and Buried.
Yeah, man, that's a good movie, man. Young Robert Englund and Dan O'Bannon, had a big part in that movie. And making the movies, that's an awesome little zombie movie. It's very, very underrated.
And I mean, that is what you should do with your dead after they die. You should probably bury them.
Yeah.
May 30th, 2008, The Strangers.
Oh, awesome.
And 1986, Demon.
Oh, no, Demons. It's a demon.
Oh, sorry, Demon. Dude,
that's actually
it's an ongoing joke with us singularizing movies.
Yes.
And sometimes, we don't even catch that we do it. It just
slips out.
It's a bad habit. We should probably stop.
But what's funny is that, the movie in English is called Demons from 1986, but to singularize it in the original Italian title from 1985 is Damani. So it is kind of singularized in its own original title in its own way.
Strangers was pretty good. 08.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like The Strangers a lot.
June 1st, 1990. Frankenhooker and Total Recall. Both in
God.
1990, same day.
That's another
Imagine going to a
scenario.
double feature of Total Recall and Frankenhooker. Which one are you seeing first?
I'm seeing Frankenhooker first. I'm loosening it up and kind of going to have a little bit of fun, and then just going to go into have my mind blown by Total Recall.
You're probably going to roll your eyes. To make a wrestling analogy, you have that curtain jerker match that just gets the crowd going and gets them into it. That's Frankenhooker. You're going to be watching, you're going to enjoy the movie, feel good, then you go into Total Recall.
Exactly.
Oh, that'd be a good day at the movies. I mean, nothing alike. But
I agree.
Still awesome.
I agree. Yeah, I would still be like, yeah, I'm going to be at the movies like all day.
June 2nd, we got Justin Long. That meme never gets old.
Yep.
If you see Justin Long in a horror movie, you're dead.
It's funny. He's like a legend in horror movies, but his legacy is that he always fucking dies in like the worst ways.
You want to know what's worse? Worse, or what's terrible?
What's that?
When I think of Justin Long, the first role that comes to mind.
A Jeeper Creeper?
No.
I just did it. I singularized it.
Randy St. John.
Randy St. John from what's that?
Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
Oh my God.
Where he's the gay porn star. And then he shows up in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah,
but they I think he has a different character name in it because for like legal reasons. But yeah, like I don't know why. Whenever I think of Justin Long, that's all I picture.
That's the character.
It's a picture, and he's done way better stuff than that. I enjoy Zack and Miri Make a Porno, but like he's done other stuff that was better and more memorable than just that part.
Right.
But
that's hilarious.
It's just I'm
some
sure you
have an effect on you.
There's just some actors that like you think of them and you're the person who thinks is one of their like weird roles that nobody else just thinks of them for.
Yeah.
And June 3rd, we'll start with Psycho 2 from 1983.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we've talked about that before. And you said something hilarious about that bitch deserved it or whatever.
Yeah.
Psycho 2 is one of the great horror sequels ever.
One of the great psycho bitches of all time.
There you go. Yeah.
King Kong versus Godzilla, 1963.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Guess I'm gonna have to watch that. I guess I just need a reason. I needed a reason, right?
Yeah, my dad was never really into Godzilla, so I didn't watch too many Godzillas as a kid. But my God, that man loved King Kong. He'd have probably been mad at Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh yeah, probably.
Dude, he'd have probably been like, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
How on just paper, Godzilla should win. Like,
yeah.
But I'm sure my dad would like give me some explanation as to why King Kong should have beat Godzilla.
Dude, that happens. Like, I'm in a lot of Godzilla groups on social media and stuff, and you wouldn't believe
that's the strength of 5 men.
You wouldn't believe like how in denial, and it's not just with Godzilla; it's with anything that fans are passionate about. But there are some fans that are like legit in denial. Like there was this person that was like legit saying that Kong won in Godzilla versus Kong. Like, he wasn't a troll, and we were like, how? And like we're like, Godzilla wins 2 out of he wins the first round and the third round, and we're like, how? And this dude's just like, well, Kong wins.
Classic rubber match.
He helps Godzilla and all this stuff, and I'm like, I literally comment. I'm like, hey, dude, like literally the director, the writer. Alex, well, I'm sorry, Alex. Adam Wingard, the director, the writer, he legit said that out of all the different drafts and scripts of the film, it was never even once considered that Godzilla would lose the fight. Everybody on board of this movie automatically just knew Godzilla's winning. And like it wasn't even a question. And here's the thing, Godzilla legitimately kills Kong in that movie. He fucking kills him. They have to blow up a jet to kickstart Kong's heart. He kills him. If that's not winning, I don't know what is. But this dude still goes, yeah, but Kong so-and-so. And I'm like, dude, the fucking director. But whatever, hey, what does the director know?
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like me arguing with people about Die Hard. And the argument I always hear now, the big argument that everybody says now is, oh, Bruce Willis said it's not a Christmas movie. To which I responded to somebody and I said, oh, I wasn't aware that Bruce Willis wrote the fucking movie.
Right.
And they were like, the guys that star in it, he says it's not a Christmas movie. Again, he's starring in a movie somebody wrote. And then like the writer of the movie came out and was like, yeah, it's a Christmas movie. There's it's at a I don't understand. Like, I get that it's not your traditional white Christmas. It's a Wonderful Life Christmas movie.
Yeah.
but the movie takes place at a Christmas party. I saw like ridiculous things. It was like it takes place at a Christmas party. There's Christmas music. Run DMC, Christmas in Hollis. It's a Christmas movie. Yeah, I know I'm going on a rant about Christmas. And the other one that had me laughing is they were like, it's look at his wife's name, Holly. I was like, okay, that's a little ridiculous. I ain't going to follow you on that one.
You got me with that. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I don't know what the point of that was except getting me to talk about Die Hard. But yeah, let's move on to Puff Puff Ass.
All right.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
Whew, the vape is good, man. It's got me going good. All right, Puff Puff Ask Here is the segment of our show where we read off the messages that you listeners write into us on social media at highonhorror420 and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com and our website at highonhorror.com. There's a lot of places you can reach us. Just if you got a question, reach out. All right, I'll start this week's question. Brittany W. asks, if you could go back in time and interview one person who's no longer with us, who would it be? Now, here's the thing. I feel like I might have answered this question before. I don't know. So I feel like we're getting repeat questions at this point. Like, there might be an episode from, like, season 1 where we answered this. I don't even remember. But I feel this feels familiar to me. I could be totally wrong and just high, though. Like, but because, like, my answer doesn't seem repetitive. So if anybody listens to this podcast religiously enough, let me know if we've already covered this question. But we got asked by Brittany. She wants to know who we would interview of people who are no longer with us. I would say Vincent Price. I would have loved to have gotten to talk to him because he's so, like, rich. His character and, like, personality is so rich and he's so over the top and dramatic. I'd love to have talked to him. Angus Scrim from the Phantasm series as well. That would be my other choice.
Just because, just basing it off of one horror franchise, or really just one horror director for the most part. Yeah, one director in a franchise, Donald Pleasance. Like, I'd love to talk to Donald Pleasance.
Hell
That'd
yeah.
be amazing.
That would be great.
And, like, I mean, he served in the war too, so, like, that'd be cool to talk to him about as well.
I would just love to, like, pick his brain, just be like, dude, how is Michael alive? You shot him 9 times or 11 times or 6 times.
I shot him 6 times.
I know, but then
Get the sheriff on the phone.
You shot him
Tell
so
him
many
I shot him
times.
6 times. He got up and walked away. Dude, I've seen it too many times.
How is he up and walking, Donald? How is this character alive?
He's like, the neighbor, he's like, was this some trick or treat bullshit? Or he was like, I've been trick or treated to death. And then, dude, classic Donald Pleasance. You don't know what death is, and then jacket swoop and takes off into the night.
Yeah, he does that Kevin Hart jacket flip. Yeah, right.
But I'd love to talk to Donald Pleasance. I feel like that'd be amazing.
I agree. That'd be awesome.
Dude, I'd be trying to talk to him about, like, the Great Escape and shit. I'd be using just like he was in
Escape
horror.
from New York, you know what I mean?
Prince of Darkness.
Right.
That's Prince of Darkness be a good one.
Hell yeah. The Freak Maker, that was a weird movie too.
And if I had to pick somebody else, maybe Wes Craven.
Oh, that's fucking solid.
That's a good choice.
That's a solid fucking choice.
I tried to get him to tell us
that
his
was
pornos
good. You got me there. That was good.
You didn't catch that at all?
No, I'm sorry. What?
I just said I would try to get him to finally disclose his pornos he made.
Exclusive High on Horror content.
We tracked down the Wes Craven pornos.
And the actors in them. Prepare for the interviews.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Man.
Anyway, don't you have a question?
Yeah, I do. It's funny because I almost cut off the recording there. that Louis the 13th get into us, like that one guy said. Going to see the French aristocracy. Jeff on Instagram wrote in. He said, did you guys hear that David Gordon Green's Exorcist film is getting bad reviews already? What are your thoughts? Well, thoughts on the movie itself. We didn't get a screener. We weren't privileged enough for that on that one. But it's funny how quickly a year changed everything.
That's so true, dude. I know where you're going.
Halloween
I
Kills.
hear the disappointment.
I think you liked Kills better than 18, right?
I did, and after the rewatch, I've switched back. I like 2018
so you're
more,
back.
but I
So you're
still
back
do
on my
like,
side.
Yes, but I still really like.
Yeah,
Kills.
I still like Kills. It's fine enough. It's one of the better ones.
Yeah.
And that's when the Exorcist thing got announced, and we're like, damn. I'm really looking forward to that. And then Halloween Ends happened, and we went, oh, I don't really care if I see that or not. I mean,
Right.
we'll watch it for you guys. But am I surprised? No. You know what this has become? I was talking with somebody at work about this. It's almost like the D&D thing from Game of Thrones, the two Davids.
Yeah.
That they had all these other projects lined up, and it was just like they stopped maybe caring. I don't think he stopped caring in this case about Halloween.
Yeah.
As compared to Game of Thrones, but they just had a bad movie and then lost everything. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess not lost everything, but nobody's as favorable on them.
Yeah, I agree. See, I think that like to answer the question, no, I'm not surprised, and also I'm in no rush to see it. The thing is I think that truthfully, it really is a brash and ballsy move to do a sequel to like the greatest horror film ever in The Exorcist. I really do. And like even with as good as Halloween 2018 was, even off that high, say the last two movies didn't happen, David Gordon Green's not like that movie's not in the same caliber as The Exorcist. David Gordon Green didn't prove that he's that caliber of a director or storyteller to be able to make a sequel to The Exorcist based on the one good Halloween movie he did. So I'm not looking forward to it. I do think that this is going to bomb. I do. I have a feeling it's going to make money, but it's going to bomb. But give me another director and tell me that they're doing the Exorcist sequel, like say Alex Aja's doing it or something. And I would have been all for it and had a little bit of hope for it. But
Robert
after
Eggers.
Halloween Ends, I don't think David Gordon Green can make a truly scary movie like the original Exorcist or a faithful adaptation. But we'll see. I might have my foot in my mouth in a few months when I see it.
I was funny. I said Eggers, but I don't see that Eggers would ever want to do that. I don't think Eggers doesn't strike me as somebody that would actually want to work on an already existing IP.
I agree.
He wants to do his own shit, but
yeah.
But I think if he was to do an Exorcist type movie, I would definitely be interested in checking that out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we're wrong, and maybe Exorcist sequels was amazing.
Like I said, we're going to be sitting down at this table recording in a few months.
We're always
going,
open to change
his
our minds.
best movie ever. Who would have thought it's better than Halloween 2018? Could happen. I'm not going to say it's not. So
I meant to say, I think we probably have the same David Gordon Green movie as our favorite.
Your Highness?
No.
Halloween 2018?
No.
What?
Pineapple Express.
Yeah. Okay, you got me. I really like Your Highness though, dude. Your Highness.
I know.
Is fucking
You're one
hilarious.
of the few people. You're like me with Observe and Report.
Yes, I like that movie too, dude.
People do not like that movie.
I like that.
I remember one time I went to look up a clip to show somebody, and it's like the big scene where he's like when Michael Payne, he's like, sometimes I drink from volcanoes. And like he's like, dude, I was like, somebody was like, what are you talking about? And I went to go look the scene up because that's like the biggest like well-known scene. It wasn't even on, this was like 10 years ago, but it was like, wasn't even on YouTube. And I'm like, there's like no clips from this movie. Like people really hated this movie. But
That's funny. That's like me with Hot Rod.
I love Hot Rod.
Dude, I loved Hot Rod, but I'm like the only person besides you that I know that like
Kenny.
likes that movie. Like that movie, every time I tell people I like it, they're like, that movie's stupid. And I'm like, I know, but that's why it's funny. Too legit to quit. All right, anyway, let's go on to the point here. Yeah, all right, let's talk about drive-ins. All right, so the thing that you have to love about drive-ins is the formality of it all. Am I right? I mean, at theaters, you can't talk, text, or anything without it bothering, other viewers or people next to you.
Yeah.
But at the drive-in, you make yourself at home. You talk as much as you want. You deal with your out-of-control kids. Anything goes. Actually,
literally.
Yeah, if you have kids, drive-ins used to have playgrounds and music and even TVs to watch when they weren't a common thing in
That's
every
fucking
household.
crazy to think about.
Right, it was like a serious attraction, and the only catch is that instead of surround sound, you just get one little speaker. But the drive-in is a true place to kick back and enjoy a movie on your terms. As a matter of fact, the drive-in was invented for comfort. Richard Hollingshead Jr., who was a movie buff, wanted to give his mother the optimal viewing experience because she didn't like the seats at theaters.
Yeah, she say that like I'm sure the seats weren't too great back then, but were cars really that comfortable to like
Fair enough.
just sit in? I mean, I guess they were a little bit bigger back then, but yeah. Anyway, the history of the drive-in theater dates back to the early 20th century. The first partial drive-in theater, Theater de Guadalupe, opened in Las Cruces, I'm probably saying that wrong, New Mexico, on April 23rd, 1915. It had a seating capacity of 700. That's a lot.
That's
I feel like
lot.
that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. Holy
And
crap.
provided car owners with entrances and spaces for over 40 cars within the theater grounds. The theater showed both movies, and it also had live performances on its stage. And shortly after, in 1921, Claude Caver opened the drive-in theater in Comanche, Texas, where patrons could watch silent films from their vehicles. I guess that makes it a little bit easier. Like with the silent film, you don't need...
For
well,
sure.
well,
You don't need the
I mean, you
speaker.
still have the music.
Oh, okay, fair.
So, I
You
mean,
got
I
it.
don't-
You got that. You're right
but-
there.
If you
Almost. That
have
was
trouble
smart.
hearing, it's maybe not going to ruin it for you.
Yeah.
But however, due to the logistical difficulties, there were relatively few drive-in experiments during that time. The drive-in theaters we know it today was patented by the man you brought up, Richard Hollinshead Jr., very close to us in Camden, New Jersey.
Hell yeah, it's a stone's throw away.
In 1932, Hollinshead conducted outdoor theater tests in his driveway. He used a small screen nailed to a tree and a 1928 Kodak projector on the hood of his car.
Oh, shit.
He applied for a patent and received it on May 16th, 1933. Hollinshead's Drive-In Theater, located in Camden, opened on June 6, 1933. After an investment of $30,000, it was only 25 cents per vehicle and 25 cents per person. Hollinshead never made a profit, but the idea still became a hit. It featured a 40 by 50 foot screen and could accommodate 400 cars. And the first film shown at Hollinshead's Drive-In was Wives Beware. Well, we'll have to look that up sometime.
Yeah, that's
I gotta
cool.
imagine it's probably like a comedy or
Yeah,
something.
I've never seen it, but that sounds cool. I would check it out based on the title. Regardless, it's just history, so.
And the drive-in theater concept quickly caught on, and more drive-ins opened across the United States. Shankweiler's Auto Park in Pennsylvania, 1934. Galveston's Drive-In Short Reel Theater in Texas in 1934. The Pico Drive-In Theater in Los Angeles in 1934, and Weymouth Drive-In Theater in Massachusetts, 1936, were among the early drive-ins to open. By 1939, there were drive-in theaters in various states, including Ohio, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California, Florida, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, New York, Texas, and Virginia. And by 1940, over 20 drive-ins opened across America.
Yeah, the drive-in in its heyday in the 50s and 60s has over 4,000 opened across the country during the 50s and 60s. And movies like Sean Connery's James Bonds and the Elvis movies and schlock like Attack of the 50-Foot Woman are just
That'd be amazing to see in a drive-thru.
right? Those are just a little taste of what were big hits at the drive-in during this era between the 50s and 60s. And 40% of all drive-ins were in the Midwest. And,
That makes sense. There's more room.
Yep. And the growth of drive-ins was exponential due to the fact that you no longer had to pay Richard Hollinshead Jr. any royalties to open a drive-in.
And early drive-in theaters faced sound issues, which I mean that makes sense when you're trying to figure it out, especially back then. But innovations like the in-car speaker with individual volume controls introduced by RCA in 1941 solved the problem, which helped lead to the boom you talked about. There's also, they did particularly well in rural areas, as you pointed out as well. Drive-ins provided amenities such as bottle warmers, diaper vending machines, and
That's awesome.
in addition to, the playgrounds and swimming pools you mentioned already. They became a part of North American pop culture, symbolizing freedom and liberty. During their peak in the late 50s and early 60s, there were over 4,000 drive-in theaters in the
That's
U.S.
crazy.
Drive-ins use various gimmicks to attract audiences, such as prize drawings, personal appearances by the actor, live musical performances. Some drive-ins held religious services, while others offered discount admissions on specific nights. Like, you imagine just like, you pull up at the drive-in, you go see, James Bond, and there's like Sean Connery there to...
Yeah,
like,
right?
He's just chilling because, I mean, I doubt you would get it to that level, but
Or
I mean,
imagine
like, you're still getting actors like coming in. That's still pretty cool.
Or I imagine how awkward it would be, like pulling in to see like what the movie is playing at the drive-in, and it's like Sunday Mass.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
You're like,
wrong
why is
day.
everybody here during the day?
I was trying to see Godzilla. That don't start till 2:30. I got 3 hours to kill.
However, the drive-in industry started to decline in the 70s and 80s due to several factors. There was improvement in home entertainment, such as color television, cable TV, VCRs became a big thing, especially video rentals.
Yeah,
Now,
video stores. Yeah.
now it wasn't if you missed it in the theaters, it was gone. You know, you could get them on a VHS, or you could just go and rent them from your local video store.
Yeah.
And that provided more options for movie watching at home. Also, the 1970s energy crisis and daylight savings time started, and it changes affected drive-in attendance because you're changing the times at different points in the year.
Yep.
And some of the theaters switched from showing some of the R-rated to some of the X-rated films to offset declining revenue, while others struggled to compete with indoor cinemas that had a wider range of movies and a higher expectation for longer screening times.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. If you go to a drive-in to beat off, you're skeezy. but that's the thing about drive-ins. That's why it's important. That's why horror, like even though drive-ins have shown all kinds of movies, like we talked about comedies, and they just recently at the Mahoning Drive-In showed Terminator and RoboCop.
Yeah,
like they show these movies, but the thing is that they show all genres of movies, is what I'm saying. But the reason that you always see like the drive-ins stick to horror closer than any other genre. Like whenever you're speaking of a specific genre of movie, drive-ins go right in hand with monster movies and horror movies. That's like, and that's why, like, because they were the places that weren't scared to show you I spit on your grave and stuff like that. So if you wanted to see movies like that, that's where you would go to see them. And so like, that became kind of like a thing where like, yeah, man, like, the drive-in's known for playing those really grimy movies, and you got to give it respect for that. But as far as the X-rated shit goes, I don't know why anybody would pull up in their car and just sit there and just watch a porn.
You just gotta take the edge off.
Jeez.
You light some candles, set the mood. Anyway, getting back to drive-ins here. During the late 70s and early 80s, drive-in theaters faced challenges due to the runaway inflation and real estate interest hikes. The large land tracts occupied by drive-ins became increasingly expensive.
I believe it.
And just made it economically unfeasible to continue operations as drive-ins. Many drive-ins operated only on weekends, and some were open during the spring and summer months, subject to weather conditions that could result in poor attendance or cancellations. And as a result, the total number of drive-ins operated in the U.S. and Canada by the late 80s dropped to less than 200.
Oh, man.
We talked about the peak. It was, 6,000? I just said it somewhere around there, but it was in the thousands, and now we're dropping down to less than 200. And apart from the financial aspect, many drive-in theaters required infrastructure improvements, which owners were often unwilling to invest in. The rising land prices made it difficult to justify the expense of maintaining a drive-in theater business. And moreover, as drive-ins were typically located on the outskirts of towns, the expanded urban areas made it challenging and costly to maintain large properties. As drive-ins closed down, many of the former sites were repurposed and used for stuff such as storage facilities, flea markets, industrial parks, shopping centers, and again, even churches. The decline of drive-ins continued through the 90s with only a few operating venues remaining. However, during this time, a revival of drive-ins began to take shape, fueled by nostalgia and a wave of interest in retro experiences. The concept of the do-it-yourself drive-ins emerged using modern tools like LCD projectors and micro radio transmitters. These drive-ins sought to reclaim underused urban spaces and organized outdoor film screenings. And another format that gained popularity was the boutique drive-in, kind of catered to a smaller audience and featured vintage aesthetics. These drive-ins typically showed mainstream films and popular classics, and they were often accompanied by food trucks as a concession stand. I mean, I guess that kind of helps cut down on your expenses if you outsourcing it to somebody to sell on your property.
Yeah, right.
And moving on to 1999 here, Hull's Drive-In in Lexington, Virginia became the nation's only nonprofit drive-in after a nonprofit group called Hull's Angels raised funds to buy and operate the theater, focusing on family-friendly films. I mean, we'd like to see him show a little more horror, but I mean, they're keeping the drive-in alive.
Yep. I agree. And by 2006, I was going to say, thanks for letting me chime in here. The number of
info.
the number of operating. I'm sorry. Let me start again. By 2006, the number of operating drive-in theaters in the United States increased back to around 500, including both regularly operating venues and those with sporadic showings. However, drive-ins faced another decline in the late 2000s due to factors such as oil crisis, the worsening economy, reduced use of automobiles, the population shifts away from suburban and rural areas, and the ongoing conversation from celluloid to digital projection also pose financial challenges for smaller drive-ins. Today only 10% of that peak exists. Daylight savings time changed movie times, as you explained earlier. The VHS boom made people sell their lots, and right there, the drive-in just started dwindling. And today, instead of worrying about VHS and daylight savings time, we have IMAX theaters and streaming services and 4K that are putting the boots to drive-ins. It's sad to report that today, just over a little of 300 drive-ins still exist.
To be honest, I'm surprised that many still actually exists.
I know. I agree with that because you only really hear about like 4 or 5 of them. But the COVID-19 pandemic brought an unexpected surge in attendance to drive-in theaters, which makes sense, as they allowed to operate while indoor theaters faced restrictions on mass gatherings. Drive-ins became popular for events like graduations, offering physically distanced entertainment option. And despite the challenges, there has been a renewed interest in drive-in theaters in recent years. Drive-ins accounted for a significant portion of box office revenue in North America in 2021 and gained popularity in other countries as well. Some drive-ins have embraced new technologies and designs, incorporating electronic screen systems and expanding their hosting activities to include live concerts, yoga classes, fitness training, and private events. I know, right? The drive-in theater experience has evolved to adapt to changing times while preserving the nostalgic appeal of outdoor movie viewing.
And so that brings us to today's guest, Joe Bob Briggs. We all know him as the host of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. And if for some reason you're not aware of it, The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs is a television series that has played a significant role in revitalizing and preserving the spirit of the drive-in theater experience. Hosted by Joe Bob Briggs. The show first aired on the streaming service Shudder in 2018, and it's quickly gained a cult following. And Joe Bob's known for his quirky humor and vast knowledge of exploitation films, and he's become an iconic figure in the world of horror and exploitation cinema. The Last Drive-In, it pays homage to the drive-in tradition by showcasing a double feature of cult classics. The show captures the essence of the drive-in experience, complete with Joe Bob's witty commentary, drive-in etiquette lessons, and interactive fan participation.
Yeah, people ask, what's the difference between Joe Bob and, say, Elvira or Svengoolie and other hosts? And the difference is the amount of knowledge that Joe Bob has. He's not about gimmicks or he is a gimmick, but he's not about look at the stage setup that I have, and it's not a showcase. It's just knowledge. And straight up, I always learn more from the actual movie whenever he's the host because he knows his shit. With Elvira, she's likely to give you one-liners and puns to make you laugh, but Joe Bob is likely to take a deep dive into the actual movie and talk about it while still being funny. And the other thing that the other hosts don't have is Joe Bob's ability to go on a rant unrelated to the movie, but still keep you invested until he's done rambling. His rants are amazing. And lastly, the character of Joe Bob is relatable. He's casual. He's the best horror host of all time, if you ask me.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's no lie that we've wanted him on this show forever.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, even stuff not as in a bragging type way, but you and I know Halloween 1978 pretty much in and out.
I'm pretty confident in that. Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
still learn something watching Joe Bob.
Yeah, he'll always bring something new to the table.
It's
that you're just
something,
like, what the
man.
hell? But it's not. It's because he's not like people like us, like other critics, where he's behind a computer just learning. He's been out there involved. He's talked to people. He has like firsthand knowledge, and that's what he brings to the table. Is that firsthand knowledge that other people don't have.
And it just feels like you're sitting with your buddy watching a movie.
Yes.
And but you're just learning.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think I've told you before, like, it's almost like a comfort show for me. Like,
100%.
It's kind of like when you're sick, when you're home sick from school and you watch The Price is Right and you watch those other shows. It's like, oh, I don't feel good. I don't want to pay attention. I'm just going to put on Joe Bob. But it's funny because we say that about how knowledgeable it is, but it's just like, it's that comfort show.
It's also background material.
I'll just hang out with Joe Bob
Yeah.
while I'm sick and just watch Hellraiser. Like,
Yeah, right? For real.
That's what'll make me feel better. And one of the show's most significant contributions is its celebration of the communal aspect of drive-ins. The Last Drive-In has a very interactive nature. It encourages viewers to participate and engage through social media platforms where they could share their thoughts, jokes, memories related to the films being screened. This online community has created a virtual drive-in atmosphere where fans from all around the world come together to celebrate their love for cult movies and the drive-in experience. And I think, honestly, it's a big compliment to what Darcy's brought to the Last
100%.
Drive-In.
With
her social media, like, there's so much fan engagement. I mean,
and how much she goes to bat for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And like, it's just any social media can be toxic at times, but I feel like for the most part, it's just a lot of fun and just people interacting with each other online. Like that Joe Bob group, the Mutant Family group on Facebook, that's like one of my favorite groups. Like, I feel like people feel more confident sharing their opinions where they'll be like, oh, I feel like I see it more so in that group than other ones where it's
There's
like,
not, like, this
where
need to
somebody's
be
like,
like an
I didn't like that
aficionado.
movie, but cool that you liked it, but like it wasn't for me.
Everybody in that group doesn't post like opinions like they're like Siskel and Ebert. They're just like casual people.
And I've
just
seen
giving
so
their
many
opinion.
where it's like somebody's like, oh, I've never seen this movie. And it's like, you know, the movie everybody's supposed to see.
Yeah.
And then like people are like, oh, you haven't seen this? And they'll be like, oh, I never saw this. Would I like it? Well, if you like this type of movie, then you'll like it. But
Yeah.
if you're expecting this, then no, you won't like it.
I agree. It's a positive community. For
And
the
like I've
most
seen
part.
people that are like, oh, I didn't like the movie, but if you said that you like this, you'll probably like it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like compared to other groups where it's like, oh, you didn't like Rob Zombie's Halloween, you're a piece of shit. Like, like, or the other way around. But like, yeah, I feel like it's just, it's a good community for the most part.
Yeah, I agree.
The Last Drive-In has also played a role in introducing lesser-known films to a new generation of viewers. I feel like for us, like with stuff a lot of times we've maybe already seen, but like, you know, teenagers. I mean, you could be a teenager, watch Joe Bob. Fuck it.
Yep.
But like, or a young adult that maybe hasn't seen it, they're getting movies that like they maybe didn't check out because they were movies that we saw when we were kids, so it just passed by them. But many of the films featured on the show are rare or forgotten gems, and they provide an opportunity for fans to discover these horror treasures. Well, I guess they are horror treasures, but I meant hidden treasures.
Yeah.
By shining a spotlight on these films, Joe Bob not only educates the audience about the history of cinema, but also helps preserve and promote the work of independent filmmakers and underappreciated films. And the success of The Last Drive-Ins had a real positive impact on the drive-in theater industry itself. The shows reignited an interest in drive-in theaters, leading to increased attendance and support for these iconic venues. Many fans have started to seek out their own local drive-ins, creating a resurgence of interest in their own areas and provided much-needed revenue for those struggling theaters. The Last Drive-In has reminded audiences of the unique experience offered by drive-ins, the joy of watching movies under the stars, the sense of community, and the shared excitement that can't be replicated in a traditional movie theater.
And and let's there's been another positive impact to speak of. The Last Drive-In to date has made more than $350,000 in charitable donations from auctions.
Yeah, you assholes! I can't get anything because you're all too charitable.
I know, right? Everybody keeps giving. People love tuning in and giving money. So even in that sense, how can that
Every Christmas, I'm like, I'm going to get something, and I'll be like, damn it.
Yep.
somebody always outbid me.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know, and another positive is that the last drive-in, we officially get Joe Bob merchandise. We've never had Joe Bob merchandise, right? Yeah, there's never been Joe Bob merchandise. You know, there never used to be anything, you know, when Monster Vision was out. But thanks to Fright Rags, there's Joe Bob and Darcy action figures, tumblers, shirts for every season and holiday special, and so on. A fucking Messed Up Puzzles did a Joe Bob puzzle. Joe Bob with the Elvira puzzle. They did a Joe Bob puzzle of his face. You know, there's Joe Bob merch, and that's amazing. And also, let me add one more positive effect here that the last drive-in has had is that Joe Bob is making personal appearances at cons and at lectures, like the one that we went to, How the Rednecks Saved Hollywood. And, you know,
it wasn't even about horror, but it was still amazing.
And exactly. And I highly recommend that you meet him somewhere. He's the coolest guy, really. And the world didn't know it needed Joe Bob so bad until the last drive-in, you know.
I want to jump in right there.
Yeah.
I just want to say with How Redneck Saved Hollywood, I remember when we got our tickets and it said that Joe Bob would sign for 1 hour before and 1 hour after. And as soon as the thing ended, he went up there to sign. There was just put out on Twitter, it was like, don't worry about the time. Joe Bob's going to sign.
Yep.
Anybody that wants anything signed or wants to meet him, Joe Bob's going to stay till the end.
He's going to wait till these lines finished. Yeah, it's like a class act.
Need some of the people at the cons that are like, oh, I only do 150 autographs, so if there's anybody else in the line, too bad.
Yeah. We won't name names, but I just wanted to say that it's funny because, you know, in the first special that Shudder did with Joe Bob, the last drive-in was supposed to be a one and done, and it left my buddy Michael and I bawling our eyes out. I remember I cried like a bitch, and we were texting each other, and he was like, he can't be done, like that can't be. It's the way he like left his hat in the chair and then just kind of walked off, man. It really fucked me up, and but it was great to know that, you know, we weren't the only ones that missed him, because Shudder realized what they had in Joe Bob and went full swing, man. And this comeback is huge, you know, giving us holiday specials, as I mentioned, on top of seasons upon seasons of the last drive-in. I mean, Joe Bob is back in a strong way, and rightfully fucking so.
I mean, before the last drive-in, you and I had like talked. It was like one of those things from our childhood that we're like, do you remember watching Monster Vision as a kid? Yeah, you remember that guy Joe Bob Briggs? Like, whatever happened to him, man? Like, he was awesome. Like, and then, man, like, we got it back, and I couldn't watch the marathon, partially because I was working. I think I was still working at the movie theater then, but also you couldn't. I guess it wasn't the movie theater then, but anyway, you couldn't like, it broke Shudder. Like, you couldn't even get on. I had to watch like the replay of it.
It did. It totally
and the funny
did.
thing is, like, when they announced it, I was already happy and sad.
Yep.
Because they announced it and I was like, oh, he's going to come back. He's going to have a show. And they're like, it's like this one-off, like, we want to give him this send-off. And I'm like, I want to watch it, but then it's just going to, like, get my hopes up. And then, like, they announced it. I remember, like, I don't know which one of us messaged the other one. It was like, holy shit, they're fucking, Joe Bob's got a series. Like, like, I'm watching this every Friday. I'm usually at work, just got that popped on the TV at work.
Yep.
But, yeah, I mean, the last drive-in has become a beloved platform for preserving the spirit of the drive-in theater experience through its nostalgic celebration of cult classics, interactive fan engagement, and the support for independent cinema. The show has rekindled a love for drive-ins and created a vibrant community of film enthusiasts.
Yeah, well
With
said.
its continued success, the last drive-in ensures, as Joe Bob says, the drive-in will never die.
Right on. Well, before we get into talking to Joe Bob, I wanted to bring up to you movies that we'd like to see at a drive-in, and or favorite movies that have already played at a drive-in. I thought this would be kind of cool because, like, you know, going to a drive-in is always fun for people like us. And see, when I think of the drive-in, I think of exploitation flicks and how, you know, drive-ins were a place for people, like I mentioned earlier, to watch them. So for me, my drive-in experience would be a gritty double bill of, like, I Spit on Your Grave and Cannibal Holocaust, or Maniac
Last
and
House
New
on the
York
Left.
Ripper. Yeah, and some cold beer, you
Ooh,
know.
Maniac at Last House on the Left. That sounds
That's
like
a good
double
one.
bill.
I mean, yeah, Maniac and
You're going to
New
feel
York Ripper is
dirty
pretty
as
brutal.
fuck
That's
leaving
a good
that
one.
theater.
But
You're going to feel grimy, like,
you're
you'll be sweating.
those,
like,
Joe Spinell, you got the Joe Spinell sweats, you know. But yeah, those are probably my favorite movies that have been played at drive-ins, you know, because, like, they just seem like drive-in movies. They're perfect for that culture. But I wouldn't recommend those movies, like, on a first date unless you've seen those movies already. Nothing worse than a guy taking you to a seedy movie to try to get in your
want
pants.
to go to the
know?
drive-in? Yeah. What's this? Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah, class it up a bit. Don't do exploitation at the drive-in unless you're both dedicated to the genre. But in regards to movies that I'd like to see at the drive-in, the list could go on and on, but my answer to that, plain and simple, is Godzilla. Godzilla at any drive-in seems like my idea of a good time. Luckily enough, I'm going to the Mahoning Drive-In in July to see Godzilla Double Bill. Yes.
Those screenshots came into the group chat hella fast.
Oh yeah, I'm going, and it's I'm going one of the days. They're doing it all 3 days. A weekend, last weekend in July, I think. But
nice.
Yeah. It must be. Either way, I'm glad to go, and I'm going to enjoy the shit out of myself. And it's going to be hot as hell, so cold beverages are a must. And by all means, I should be in heaven that weekend. You want to go?
I mean, I'll think about it.
All right.
If it was Gamma, I'd be there.
Always throwing the shade.
Yeah, for what I'd like to see at the drive-in, I think I kind of already gave one answer. For
House on the Left.
The Last House on the Left, and I already
Maniac.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God,
that is a grimy double bill,
dude.
Though.
You're gonna feel dirty as hell whenever you saw.
You're right. You're gonna need a shower.
But I mean, even like I Spit on Your Grave with the second one being Last House on the Left, that'd be terrible.
Yeah.
But
or even I Spit on Your Grave and Maniac. That's just
anyway, any of those combos,
yeah.
Just feel grimy, but
I feel more chauvinistic just talking about it.
But I think that'd be a good double feature. One I'd like to see in the drive-in, and I've also seen it. I guess you wouldn't consider it drive-in, but there's another way I'd like to see it. Jaws.
Oh, awesome!
I've seen I guess photos of people where like they get like a lake or something, or like and they do like the tubing.
Yeah.
But everybody's sitting like in the tubes
in the water
and watching
yes.
Jaws. I'm like, that would be amazing.
Imagine passing a blunt like while we're sitting.
No,
on
because you know what happened. Oh fuck! I dropped it in the water, and then you gonna be the asshole for the rest of the day, and you gonna live that story forever. Be like, you remember that time that John dropped the blunt in the lake?
In the water? Yeah, we had that good.
Man,
shit
what an
that
asshole! We just sparked it. He was the first one I got passed to. I'll make up some shit. Be like, no, it slipped out of my fingers. I didn't have a good grip. I didn't say I had it.
But I'd have to do it at nighttime because I'd be getting sunburnt like a motherfucker.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be hard to go to a drive-in during the day.
So just no chilling in the water with out in the open in daylight. I'm gonna get fried. I'm gonna look like a lobster.
That's fair. I also would like to see Halloween.
Yes, I was gonna say that for sure. I would love for you and I to get to go to just for some reason, I don't know why this seems perfect. Just Halloween 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Double bill Halloween 1 and 2, like old school film reel, yeah.
Halloween free. Sorry, you say Halloween 3 or Halloween free?
Yeah, didn't see Halloween free before. That must be the new one.
Yeah, that's a new one.
It's got to be better than
they brought back Rob Zombie. Yeah, so I got 3 movies. I'm doing a triple feature.
Well,
I'll put Jaws in there as a palate cleanser in the middle. I'll do a triple feature overnight. So you can either start it with Last House on the Left or Maniac first, but then throw Jaws in there as it's a horror movie, but it's a bit of a palate cleanser before you got to go back into that filth.
I feel like stopping.
Last House on the Left first, then Jaws, and then close it out with Maniac. So you feel real grimy and sweaty by the end of the night.
I feel that on your way home, stopping and getting fast food, eating a burger is just going to make you just feel so you're just going to go home and shower and get in bed and go to sleep. I'm done for the day.
All I picture was it David Cross and well, what was that show that Ron Howard did?
Oh, Arrested Development.
Yeah. Just that GIF. It has David Cross just in the shower where he's just crying.
Yep.
That's what you'll feel like when you go home.
For real.
So I mean, I think we've talked enough. Now let's get Joe Bob on here.
All right.
And joining us today is a guest who's an icon in the horror industry. He's a movie host, author, actor, and more. I first became aware of him as a child watching Monster Vision with my father, and he's the current host of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, currently airing its 5th season on Shudder. We are excited to have today's guest and our personal hero, the incomparable Joe Bob Briggs. Thank you again for being high on horror.
Well, thanks for that introduction. I don't understand these introductions lately where they call me a hero, because for the first part of my career they called me a villain. So this is a recent thing.
Well,
but thank you. But
yeah,
thank you.
Well, look, Joe Bob, you're on High on Horror, so I have to ask this question. During your Phantasm Christmas marathon, you named off different strains that you were smoking during these sequels. Do you have any other movie series that you do that to?
We did that when we had the Phantasm. Are you talking about the Phantasm marathon?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. The only time we've ever actually given people, and by the way, we made it clear that the advice was not for people. You had to be in a Colorado state. We call them, Colorado states and Texas states. If you're in a Colorado state, we gave you those recommendations. If you're in a Texas state, we gave you whiskey recommendations and liquor recommendations. But that's the only time we've done it. We've done it all night long. I am going to do it on one other movie. We don't announce the titles in advance. We keep them a secret until the premiere. But there is one other movie where it's so strange that I'm gonna suggest. I'm gonna give some specific suggestions of some things you should take while you're watching it. even though the director's going to be there, he's going to be with me when I host it, and so I hope he's okay with that. But anyway, but there's just certain movies that seem to call for a little substance abuse. So
that's awesome. And we're definitely going to be looking forward to that. Now, you've done some 420 videos. Do you just like to be a holiday smoker, or do you like to indulge regularly?
No, really. I take Darcy is actually the bigger. She's the expert on that count. I'm really a whiskey drinker. I'm not so much. Darcy has introduced me to some strains and some. She's also big on mushrooms, legal mushrooms. People think of mushrooms as only psychedelic type stuff. They're not. It's not that. They have other different kinds that do different things. And so she's kind of shown me that stuff. But really, give me a bottle of Wild Turkey or Macallan Scotch. I'm just not. I'm not so much into the 420s.
Fair enough. And now you've been a film critic, a commentator, and writer for many years. What first drew you to the world of movies, and what keeps you so passionate about them?
What first brought me to the movies? Well, I guess it was when I was a kid, growing up in various little small towns around Texas and Arkansas. My parents, this was a different age. My parents would dump me at the neighborhood theater. That was my favorite thing to do, or the downtown theater even. And usually at least 2 days a week they would have these children's programs that went all day long, and you would go and watch the movies, and they would also have. I'm sure it was unbearable for parents to even be in the theater. It's like, 300 kids in there, and that's why they just dropped you off and left. But, they would have a clown and a magician and a bunch of movies and a bunch of Three Stooges shorts and then a couple of features, and you'd just leave your kids there all day. Well, I love that stuff. And so I kind of I sort of developed my love for movies from a really young age. And then my parents went to the drive-in all the time, and they would put me and my sisters in the back seat, And we would try to stay up for the second feature because, the second feature was the naughty feature, the adult feature. And so we would try to stay awake, and we never made it. We never made it to the second feature. By the time the second feature started, we were all asleep in the back seat. So, but they always went to the drive-ins back when drive-ins were all over. Especially the South in the warmer climates, the drive-ins would stay open all year long.
Yeah, we used to have just one left in Delaware, but I think that closed about 10 years ago, unfortunately.
A lot of drive-ins came back in the pandemic because it was the only place where you could legally watch movies for a long time. And the only place you could see first run movies, and so a lot of drive-ins reopened. Now, if you're in Delaware, if you've never been to Shankweiler's Drive-In in Oredale, Pennsylvania, you must go there. Shankweiler's Drive-In is the oldest continuously operating drive-in in the world. It's been operating since 1934. You got to go to Oredale, Pennsylvania, Shankweiler's Drive-In. It's not far from Delaware. So you got to go there, and then you got to go to Benji's Drive-In in Baltimore. Same thing. It's like ancient, classic drive-in, and you'll see how vibrant the drive-in scene is today. I'm the spokesman for the Drive-In Owners Association of America for their 90th birthday, which is this year, because the drive-in was invented in 1933, and so they're having events all over the country, and so it's true what I say: the drive-in will never die.
Well, something that I wanted to ask you for, I've wanted to ask this question to you for a while, Joe Bob. I've met you at conventions, and I've meant to bring it up, and I always forget. Your reviews meant a lot to me growing up. I was kind of like the odd kid in my family trying to reach out and learn different movies. Movies always appealed to me, and I was always trying to watch weird shit and stuff people have never heard of. And when I stumbled onto I Spit on Your Grave for the first time, I was scared to tell people that I watched it because the people who knew I watched it gave me shit for it. And then I saw you praising it and seeing it for what it really was, and you even did a commentary track on it, and that meant a lot to me to know that someone out there felt the same way about this movie that I did, that it's not sick and that you're not sick for watching it. And I just wanted to ask you, now that I Spit on Your Grave has kind of become accepted mostly, what movies do you still find yourself championing that still haven't earned the respect that they deserve?
Well, I Spit on Your Grave has not become accepted. I'm not allowed to show it on Shudder. But the reason I did that first commentary track, by the way, was the distributor at the time called me. Well, actually, the director called me. Mayor Zarki called me, and he said, "Are you that guy that wrote the favorable review of I Spit on Your Grave?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Would you do the commentary track for the release of my movie?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Why do you want me to do it?" And he says, "Because you wrote the only favorable review that it ever got." so the thing is, that movie, which was intended to be a pro-woman, anti-rape statement, got attacked by Siskel and Ebert for all the wrong reasons. I don't know if they just watched 10 minutes of it and didn't watch the rest of it, or if they just hated the genre of, they just hated the fact that it was a revenge movie. But it was not unlike previous movies that had been done by Ingmar Bergman and Sam Peckinpah. And it was just the fact that it was marketed as an exploitation movie and it was called I Spit on Your Grave, I think gave everybody a license to attack it. The director was shocked that people considered it misogynist, and I still to this day do not think it was misogynist. And certainly the actress Camille Keaton, who was a grandniece of Buster Keaton, who played the lead and did a great job in that role, was also shocked that people thought, that she had humiliated herself by doing the movie, and she didn't think so at all. She thought that it was a pro-woman movie. Yes, in a lot of places, the opinions about it have changed since 1978, but in a lot of ways, it's still got the same reputation, and it's still banned in most places. So, but there have been quite a few. I mean, the cannibal movies, which were mostly made by Italian companies in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, those have always been censored almost wherever they play all over the world. We had to, when we played Cannibal Holocaust on the last drive-in, we had to put a disclaimer on the front of it, and we had to have an alternative version that had the harm to animals taken out of it. We took out the harm to animals scenes and did a version that you could watch that was like PETA friendly. I mean, the director, Ruggero Deodato, claims no animal was killed except the ones that were going to be eaten by the natives. I don't think that's true. I know it's kind of a stretch once you've seen the scenes and how they were shot and everything. I don't think that's true. He says they were all used as food. I don't. We'll never know. It was the Italians. They never told the truth about what they were shooting and how they were shooting it and who was in it or anything else. And so we will never know. But we thought, it had entered film history. We wanted to show it anyway. And we warned people, if you think this is immoral to watch this, then don't watch it. Of course, it makes people want to watch it. So there still are films out there like that. There are films that people believe are snuff films. They're not snuff films. There are films that were marketed as snuff films. They were promoted as real people dying on film. If you look at them, it's ridiculous to think that they got these 35 millimeter images of people actually being killed on film. Those do not exist. However, if you show one of those, people will look up the old articles, the old controversies about it, and think that you are showing a snuff film. And so, and usually what it was a bad film, a failed film that had already gone out under a certain title. And so they retitled it, made people think it was a snuff film in order to get their money back. And so they put it out a second time, and implying that everything in the film actually happened when it was true and everything. First of all, if you're shooting on 35 millimeter film, you don't have time to light it. If it's really happening, you don't ask the killer to wait for the crane to be ready so you can get the overhead shot.
Yeah. And you've been around horror for a while now. How have you seen the genre evolve, and are there any trends or changes you find that are exciting?
All the trends in horror right now are exciting, and it started in 2016 when The Shape of Water won the Academy Award for Best Picture. Nothing like that had ever happened to a horror film before. I mean, even just go back 10 years before that. Go back to 2006 and ask somebody, would the Academy ever give the best picture to a horror film, and especially to a horror film that involves a rubber suit monster No, they despise horror. Now, occasionally you would have a film that was like borderline horror that would get some Academy attention, like The Exorcist. Got some technical awards, and there was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Long time ago got some awards, and so but for the most part, horror was always considered beneath the contempt of studios. Then they controlled the Academy. Now, once The Shape of Water wins the Academy Award, suddenly money is available. Money is available to make horror films, and so we had this whole period of what they call elevated horror. I hate that term. I think people say when people say elevated horror, what they mean is, I hate horror. It's sort of like the way they talk about country music. I hate country music, but I like Taylor Swift. I hate horror, but I like Get Out. And so they use that elevated horror to mean it's not really horror. It's right. Because it has this socially redeeming subtext. Well, horror films have always had a socially redeeming subtext. You go back to Nosferatu in the silent era. Horror films have always had that. But anyway, what happened is you had these films. Suddenly, you had horror films, remakes, making $100 million, $200 million. The remake of It, Stephen King's It. Yeah. I think it was $250 million.
Yeah, it's right under The Exorcist, I think.
Yeah, and you had the how many times have they remade the Halloween series? But some, and most of them people say, "Oh my God, that time Rob Zombie did." Oh my God, But now suddenly, what made the difference? What made the difference? Blumhouse does a trilogy of Halloween films, and they're all through the. Yeah. David Gordon Green did all three of them, and suddenly there was all this money available to make the films, and people were going to the films, and that money trickled down so that we have a lot of indie horror films coming out. Now, unfortunately, with streaming taking over the business, those films end up on a menu, and a lot of them get lost. But everything in the past, 7 years horror has just been trending upward and upward and upward. I think what happened is it became a genre of its own. Instead of, it's right up there with comedy, drama, action, superhero, now it's one of the major genres. There's big budget horror. There's monster budget horror. There's medium budget horror, which is what most of the Blumhouse films are. And then there's a whole lot of continuing low budget horror. But the low budget horror films get made now. You don't just have scripts that get passed around LA forever and never get made. Those scripts get made. I mean, you guys would know, because you watch the stuff that maybe doesn't have a big national following, but it's out there, and it exists, and it can eventually find an audience. So, I mean, my answer was about money, because everything in the film business is about money. Sure. So all trends follow the money in the film business.
All right. Well, we want to thank you again for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to get to talk to you, and we're looking forward to the rest of the season of The Last Drive-In.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe Bob. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. And I don't know if there's enough thanks to Joe Bob Briggs for joining us today.
I know, right?
So make sure to follow us online, High on Horror 420, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Send us some Puff Ask questions at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Check out our website, highonhorror.com. And joining us next week, I buried the episode for next week. Instead of going, before the social, I buried it. So, I mean, it works out because next week we'll bury the bride.
That's right.
And we'll talk with Chrissy Fox, co-writer, actor, editor. Am I missing anything? Is it
Part composer.
part every hat on the movie.
Yeah.
Feels like.
Yep.
But so it's on Tubi. It's free. So watch it before next week, and then we'll have some spoilers, but it won't be spoiler heavy.
Yeah.
But it does have one of the big spoilers in it. But we'll warn you.
We're warning you. Check it out. Bury the Bride.
Or instead of having to worry about it, just watch the episode, watch the movie on Tubi.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, just watch the movie.
Just watch it, and then you don't have to worry.
And see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Catch you later. I think we're done. Bye. Next week.
Adios.